I'm gonna start now with sort of my first official Stonewall game when I started playing it a bit in 2015 against Vishy Anand. I remember at that time I was having a bunch of problems against Vishy in 1d4 openings. During the match in Sochi in 2014, I have to say I suffered a bunch with black, and as far as I can remember, this game that I'm now going to show against Vishy from Baden-Baden 2015 was played after the free day. I believe I started by drawing Aronian with black, then I beat Adams with white, and then I lost the crazy game to Niders as black in the modern, and it was a free day, and my question was like, I have another black game against Anand, what am I going to do? And I remember I took a long walk with Peter on that free day, and really didn't know what to do, and suddenly the idea hit me, like, why don't I just play the Stonewall? Like, I tell him that I don't really care about trying to equalize the fight. I just want a fighting game. And well, so it went from there. So d4 f5. Obviously that's the standard well, Stonewall move order. I've played e6 a bunch here, but mostly against people whom I either don't mind playing the French against, mostly then people who only play d4 as white, or otherwise if I just want to dare them to play the French, which has happened on more than one occasion. But anyway, f5, that allows a bunch of moves like bishop g5, knight c3. Those are of course the main alternatives here, both I think which are very good options, probably give white very good objective chances to play for an edge. And then you have moves like e4, you have g4, knight h3, and so on. But none of them are, I mean, none of them are too dangerous if you're decently prepared. So Vishy just goes for g3. No nonsense. He just develops the bishop, which is the sort of the standard way of playing against the Dutch. It ensures black, though, that once the bishop goes to g2, then d5 makes a lot more sense than otherwise, because that, let's say, Catalan bishop on g2 is gonna hit on a brick wall on d5. Anyway, let's just take a few more moves. c4, c6. Recently, well, I haven't played the Stonewall too recently, but after 2015 I've mainly played d5 here, and to be a little bit more flexible, but at that time I thought like c6 was the way to go, because that's what Simon had told me when I went to his school, that you should play c6, and if knight h3 you can probably play d6, while if you go d5 immediately, white can go knight h3 with impunity. So naturally at that point I still believed what I'd been told when I was little, so that's why I went c6. Anyway, Vishy goes for the standard play, knight f3, d5, castles. Bishop d6, b3, queen e7, preventing bishop a3, and yeah, knight e5, castles, knight d2, a5. This is all pretty standard, stuff. So right here you can also play b6. The only problem here is that after cd5, you're pretty much forced into going ed5, because cd5, knight c4 can be a bit unpleasant. Then of course bishop c7, bishop a3 is an issue. So you go ed5 and you have a complicated position, which is not great for black, but it's not too much of a disaster either. Anyway, I didn't want to play b6, bishop b7 that day. I went a5 instead. And really a5 is a move that I've played in a bunch of these games that I've played in the Stonewall. Sometimes it's a bit of a waiting move, also a bit of a daring move, like I'm saying I'm gonna take on this weakness in the center, I'm even gonna play a5, but my position is solid, like all the pawns are protected. Yeah, there are some holes, but what are you gonna do about it? So I'm saying that I can even play a5 and be okay. And from time to time, that sort of daredevil attitude has been something that's suited me. Okay, bishop b2, knight b7, queen c2, all very standard. So I went a4. And here is always the question whether white can simply take. And I don't think there is a definite answer to why not. I suspect black may go knight e4 and just say that this this pawn is not worth much. Also, there is bishop e5, d5 followed by knight g4, and if knight f3, you can go knight b6. I don't know, h3, knight h6, and it's a complicated fight, probably better for white, but none too clear. And it's in general this sort of chaotic positions with fewer clear guidelines than normal that I would aim for in the Stonewall. But I think also I could go knight e4 here, which I don't think is too unreasonable. But once again, this is not too much of a theory lesson. So he went knight f3, knight e4, and now he went e3. It's always debatable whether white should go e3, because that allows black the opportunity later to play g5, g4, and get a bit of a grip on the light squares. Not necessarily to attack with h5, h4, although that is that is something you can do. But it's most of all about cementing the knight on e4, making it as untouchable as the knight on e5. Then again, e3 prevents f4 in some lines, stabilizes the center. And if you're not going to take on a4, then it's not that clear what the obvious waiting moves are for white. So I guess it's not too unreasonable. Anyway, he went e3 and I went a3. And in these alpha 0 times, nobody's going to be surprised to see the pawn on a3. And as we could see later in the game, the pawn on a2 actually became a massive target. And I would say that this game is not so instructive in itself. It's just about when you play an opening that is where you got all the pieces on the board, and it's just a complex strategical fight. Then a lot of things can happen, and the battle lines are often not so clearly defined as they look. Anyway, he played bishop c3, knight takes e5, knight e5, bishop d7, and here he made an interesting decision for sure. I suspect, objectively speaking, white is a bit better here. Indeed, why shouldn't he be? He's got a bit of a space advantage, I suppose, with the pawn on c4, although that is not so clear, but the knight on e5 is quite well placed. I'm not sure whether I want to eliminate it, and he's got no weaknesses whatsoever. So he could make the case that he's slightly better. As for me, there's this pawn on a3, which could be feast or famine. As in the game, it turns out to be a great resource, but in other cases, white pushes c5, b4, gets the rook to b3, and the pawn just simply falls, or I have to keep the rook on a8, defending it at all times. So it's not it's not so clear whether it's a weakness or a strength. And again, he made the interesting decision, which is to go knight d7. Optically speaking, trading this beautiful knight for this visually awful bishop is very weird. But I guess his point is this bishop is going to go to e8 later. I can eliminate it at any time with bishop e5. So maybe he felt like this knight isn't so great after all. And taking, he has a very clear plan. He wants to take it, he wants to go c5, he wants to go b4. He wants to bring that rook to b3 and attack with b5. And unless I have something to show for it on the king side, I'm simply going to be in a lot of trouble strategically. In terms of alternatives, here I could think of f3, which doesn't look too dangerous. I'm going to eliminate the bishop, then later maybe take on e5, or go bishop b4, even bishop e8, then f4, I can go g5. It doesn't look too bad, and his main plan, which would be to go c5, b4, and all of this would take a lot of time. So I suspect white is a little bit better, but it's not too much. Another plan would be to go bishop e1, which feels to me like the most obvious move. I would probably continue my plan with bishop e8. He would go f3, kick my knight away, knight f6, bishop c3, maybe knight d7. But white is a little bit better. I think there's very little doubt about it. I have plans like b5 at some point, but I'm not sure it achieves a whole lot. But anyway, Vishy had other plans. He took and he played c5. and b4. Now I can obviously exchange the bishop and we get opposite colored bishops, but it feels like there's nothing too drawish about it. a3 is weak. He has a plan with b5, and if I'm gonna go something like b5 myself, I think he's simply gonna take, go rook c1, and it feels like c6 is weaker than b4. So I don't think I can play, I can sort of react to his play too much. I had to create my own play, which is why, as far as I can remember, I played my next move very, very quickly, which is h5. I'm basically saying that I'm gonna attack. So you can try your advances on the queen side, but I'm not going to care about it too much. I'm going to lose the pawn on a3 at some point, but I feel like I'm going to get enough play meanwhile that you won't be too happy. He could have played f3 here, but I can do a couple of things. I can go back. I don't think e4 at the moment at least is too dangerous. I'm sort of threatening h4. But I could also take on c3 and then later do either h4, g5, let's say h4, f4, g5, which doesn't look too bad. I'm sort of in charge of when the king side is going to be opened, and although he's obviously very solid, I feel like I've got more or less enough play to distract him from the weaknesses that I have on the queen side. I could also just have gone back, as I said, and then whenever he goes f4, I'm going to be pretty happy to just post the knight back to e4. Then whenever he takes it, I'm going to go de, probably put the queen on d5, and claim that I have the better bishop, although position would obviously be very drawish then, considering how close it is. Anyway, he played a lot more ambitiously, which I'm not sure I'm too big of a fan of, practically speaking. Like bishop e1, he allows me to play e5. To be honest, looking in retrospect, at first glance at least, I feel like g5 should be reasonable as well. f3, I go back. e4 doesn't look too dangerous. I'm going to take it a few times. Or, I mean, I even have d4 and queen d4, so that's not on the cards at all. Then later I can go g4. Maybe I was just worried that after f4 the position would be a bit too close and there wouldn't be enough fight, but it's not obvious. But I guess I thought that e5, yeah, it opens the position a bit, and closing the position with f4 is no longer on the cards. So at least I have that going for me. Okay, so I think the rest of the game is not too instructive. It's just a complete mess. Queen e6. It's, as I said, this is where it stops being about Stonewall structures and so on. It's just a dogfight, to be honest. Like here, I go back, and this was his point, that he goes bishop h3. And as far as I can remember, he told me after the game that he thought this was very good for white, but I think black has just about enough counterplay here. Queen takes a2. Once again, super concrete stuff. You cannot take on g6 because of bishop d4. So he went bishop f2, very logical, g5, rook e1, queen back, and clearly I'm not gonna queen the pawn very soon because the bishop is hanging, but the pawn is basically unstoppable, so the onus is on him to actually create something before I can consolidate. Also, like, you could play bishop f1, but I don't think it really works out perfectly because I go knight d5, and if bishop c4, I can take on f5. So he went rook e6 instead. And here, I remember I thought for quite a while. I didn't have that much time left, and I just decided to go for an absolute daredevil move, which is knight to g4. And I remember it was just such a thrill to play this move. Like, I'm removing the one piece that is providing me with some security for the king, but I really need to get that pawn on f5 to challenge his outpost on e6. And the thing is, like, he's really threatening to go bishop f1 to c4 now, because once I go knight d5, then he will have rook g6 check and possibly take on g5. So I guess it was all very concrete at this point. And once he takes, check, king h7. Yeah, I guess this is just modern chess. Like, it's very, very concrete. As far as I can remember, there was no win for white here. He had a way to make a draw, but not more. And I remember being very perplexed by what he did, which is rook d7, f6, which just loses to queen d1, takes. Queen obviously stays on the board. King g6, and my king is perfectly safe. But he told me after the game he didn't see anything. He thought white was surprisingly just lost. But that was a great fighting game. Gave me a good feeling for the rest of the tournament and about the Stonewall in general. Just being able to get that kind of a fight. So